Anyone got a bit of poo coming out? I have. Shh, behave with it. Shh.
There's 21 people logged in ready to watch it.
Yeah, we'll do.
24 people.
24. In climbing.
24 people.
Do you want to just actually, do you want to
Oh, message from Mrs. She's ready watching. Little screenshot.
It's 3 minutes.
This is really cool.
It's like everyone's choosing it. Me and Alice should have been watching it together. 5,000 views. 15 million.
Oh, my tummy's going. Everybody will watch it again. Because on my video,
I don't
my
know.
mum said for her work friends to watch as well. And at my mum's work, she's got to
Guys, shush. I'm not sure. Do you want to get Jeff? Just double check.
like 1 minute and realise, Mrs. Cleaver, is anybody commented?
Not yet. They won't if it goes live.
Not yet. I couldn't say. I said this is not the main one. I said this is I'm a presenter. And please subscribe to my channel.
Right, shush.
Go.
1 minute.
I wouldn't do that out in front of the camera because what will happen is the camera will focus on that and then
Okay, so leave it.
they can do it, yeah. Just do it on the camera.
Like two. Okay, no, we won't do it. Won't do it. When it goes to the camera, when that goes to camera, that's when you say, "Welcome to Autumn."
So I'm just going to go into camera 1.
Welcome to Autumn Watch. Over the autumn term, Year 6 from the Witch Primary School have been looking at wildlife on the Malvern Hills. With help from some local experts, we have learned an awful lot about the mammals on and around the Malvern Hills. This landscape is forever changing depending on the time of day, the season and the weather, from the fresh greens of spring to the browns and golds of autumn. It's an important time for us to help nature survive the harsh conditions that may come.
The Malvern Hills have inspired many people to help the nature on and around the Malvern Hills. So no more so than Dr. Johnny Burks, who lives in Malvern and has dedicated his life to study and help the mammals of Britain. Johnny has visited the school this term to talk to us all about the mammals on the Malvern Hills.
They disappeared from this area because we brought in some chemicals into farming that were poisonous, and the otter is a predator at the top of the food chain of rivers, and they were eating fish that had poison in them, and then the otters died. But then we got rid of the poisons, and the otters have come back again now, which is work out whose bottom it's come out of. We can say, yes, that animal is present. What else can we learn from poo?
What their diet is?
Yes, dead right. We can analyse the contents if we've got the right kit, like a microscope and examples of bones and fur and feathers and stuff. We can identify what they've been eating, so we can understand their diet and their ecology. Now, we're not sure what made that poo, what produced that poo. Anybody want to have a guess?
Fox or badger?
I think it's a bit small. That's 10 pence piece.
Johnny has written books on various small mammals and has worked alongside many famous scientists regarding his passion, bats and polecats. He has also featured on several documentaries on national TV.
We've also had another local wildlife expert, Peter Garner, visit the school, who spoke to us about various plants and insects found on the Malvern Hills. He has also written books on dragonflies and wrote the flora part of the Nature of the Malverns book.
It's very convenient. Very often when they have a poo,
with what this is all about. I've called it the natural wonders. So it's all about different things in nature. We talked about the animals. There aren't many animals because they're very difficult to photograph. There are lots of insects and they start with lots of plants. And my big interest is the plants. But I know that won't be as interesting for you. And I've got lots of pictures, so I'm going to go through them very, very quickly. I won't go naming every one to make it boring, but I will stop on one, because one of the plants I've got on there has got a good story, and it's the rarest plant in Britain. And I'll tell you a bit about it when we get on the Malverns. Have any of you ever eaten bilberries on the Malverns? No? Yeah, you have. Really good fruit. That's the flower. And then the flower turns into, from the flower, it turns into the berry. And they're a bit like blueberries that you can buy in the shops. And they're really good for you, and they taste great. And you can go up on the Malvern and just pick them for yourself. When I was your age, we used to go and collect them.
So, on the show today we've got several fascinating features. Hedgehogs, badgers, otters, even homemade squirrel-proof bird feeders. But first, let's go up to the hills to meet Johnny on a dormice count. Hello, and today we're here with Dr. Johnny Burks to find out more about the dormice that are living on the Malvern Hills. Morning, Johnny. Can you tell us a little bit about your project here on the Malvern Hills?
Yes, good morning, Coco. We're studying dormice here on the Malvern Hills, and dormice are one of the rarer mammals that we have. They're quite fussy about the habitat that they need to live in and the food they eat. And over Britain as a whole, they've become much rarer. That's my assistant Julie talking in the background. So one of the ways we can study dormice and find out how they're doing is to put up special boxes that they like to sleep in. And we've got some here just above West Malvern, and we're going to check them now to see if there are any dormice in them. First dormouse box now. Charlie's going to check it. She's already put a little bung in the entrance hole so that anybody inside can't get out, and she's going to then check the lid, lift the lid and see what's inside, and if she thinks there might be dormice, then she'll take the box down and we'll have a look more closely.
There's a nest inside the box when we open the lid just a little bit, and it looks like it could be a dormouse nest, so it's nice and tightly woven. It's got these strips of bark that they've taken off the tree and the honeysuckle and woven it into a nest. We don't know if there's a dormouse inside yet, which is why we've taken it down, put it in the bag and have a look. He's hiding. That's the tail.
Is it just one, do you think, Charlie?
I think there were juveniles in this one last time. I think what we saw might have been a baby. I'm filming.
We had two active dormice. They didn't. Can you all see? So this is an adult dormouse. See, it's got a long furry tail. Like a little miniature hamster.
I've got this on film.
Okay, you've got enough.
It's been a while since we've seen Johnny, but we've come up with a few more questions that we'd like to ask him.
So what type of food do the dormice like to eat?
Well, in the spring, dormice eat a lot of flowers. Then through the summer, the middle of the summer, they eat quite a lot of insects, so things like caterpillars and beetles that they find high up in the trees. And then in the autumn, they eat a lot of berries and nuts. And that's what helps them get fat so they can hibernate successfully through the winter.
So Johnny, what other creatures do you get inside the boxes with the dormice?
we get a lot of other animals that are interested in using those spaces inside the boxes. Some of them are invertebrates, things like slugs and spiders and earwigs. We get a lot of those. We get nesting birds, things like blue tits and grey tits will build their nests inside the dormouse boxes. And sometimes we get other rodents, things like wood mice and yellowneck mice, and even shrews sometimes will use the boxes.
Hello.
What an incredible experience. I wish I could have been there. Not many people get to see a dormouse in the UK. Never mind the age of 10, it's something they're going to remember for a long time.
You must have learnt a lot on your trip, but can you tell us why dormouse numbers are dropping?
A survey of 26,000 nest boxes in 400 forests found that its population fell by 72% between 1993 and 2014. As you can see, the numbers are not looking good. Climate change and habitat loss are contributing to the decreasing numbers.
Luckily there are people out there like Dr. Johnny Burks who are willing to contribute their time and help save these tiny little creatures and their habitats.
So, how big is the average dormouse? Because we saw in that video that they're pretty small.
So most hazel dormice are between 2.4 to 7.5 inches in length. The tail is usually the same size as the body.
You'd think a mouse nest is on the ground somewhere, but that's not the case, is it? Where do dormice nest?
Dormice are quite picky on where they like to nest, but just like birds, they like nesting in trees. They make their little woven nests out of dead grass and reeds. However, in the winter, dormice do come down from trees to hibernate on the ground.
Hibernation starts in November and lasts till April. I guess we won't be seeing our furry friends in a while. Talking about nesting, we've been to a local farm in Stoke Lacey to record some badgers getting ready for the winter.
Today we're trying to film badgers near a farm near Stoke Lacey. Badgers are mysterious creatures. We don't often see them in the daytime, so we feel very excited that we have a night vision camera to see their nocturnal behaviour. We didn't really know much about badgers until recently.
In the winter, badgers don't hibernate, but they spend more time in their setts, which are their homes. Set tunnels are usually 0.5 to 2 metres long and are underneath the ground. The badgers have to move a lot of soil to make these setts, which is often a sign to say that they are up there.
Badgers are born in the winter. When they are born, they are 12 centimetres long and they can barely see anything. They eventually grow to 3 feet long, and that is their fully grown size. Badgers make setts, so when their badgers are born, they have somewhere warm and safe to stay when the winter passes.
Cubs start venturing at about April or early May. Grown badgers are quite solid creatures weighing up to 12 kilograms. They eat rats, moles, earthworms and even rabbits.
We have set up a night vision camera near a tree to hopefully film their nocturnal behaviour.
Wow, don't you think this is clever? This badger has put a new bedding into its set. Well, did you know that this is also a sign of mating?
Wow, that's a pretty disgusting video.
It is, but these animals are tiny creatures and they use a shallow pit called latrine, which is useful because they use it more than once, and that's good because it just rots into the ground, leaving no mess. In the video, the badgers were using the same pit for 3 nights. And now we're going to show you another video clip which we found quite interesting. Try and work out what the badger is doing in it.
This badger is really weary of the camera.
It keeps looking up at us as if it can sense something is going on. Those two badgers in that video, we think they're going to have cubs in February or early April. We are hoping to go and set the camera late winter or just early spring to see these cubs venturing above the ground for the very first time.
Badgers are fascinating nocturnal animals. We are very lucky that we got to capture them on camera.
Did you know that many insects can be up to 100 years old, and that badgers are related to pine martens, otters, weasels and even polecats, and that they're in the family of the Mustildae?
To keep their steps warm and dry, they use old hay, grass and bracken. They often change their bedding to keep their steps clean.
Wow, I never knew that. But how long do badgers live for?
Actually, we found out they can live up to 15 years and they can have 2 to 3 cubs here, and they can pair up and mate for life.
Another mammal that comes out at night is the hedgehog. Hedgehogs are becoming a rare sight. In fact, some younger children may have never seen a hedgehog. But in Malvern, there are a few people who have made it their mission to take care, look after, and provide a safe haven for hedgehogs to live. We've caught up with a lady who's been doing just that.
Today we're at a house in Malvern Link to meet a lady that is helping hedgehogs. This is Teresa Prodota.
How have you got into helping hedgehogs?
Well, I've always liked them. I think they're dear little creatures and I knew that they were endangered. So we've always been aware that they needed help being looked after. And we knew there were hedgehogs about in this garden and in adjoining gardens, so we knew they were around. And then earlier in the year, my next door neighbour found a tiny little baby hedgehog wandering about outside, so we knew it was in danger, because if you see a hedgehog in the day, it usually means it's ill or hungry or lost or has lost its parents. So we got in touch with the hedgehog rescue lady and she took the hedgehog in. Unfortunately the baby hedgehog died, but she said would we be happy to look after some grown-up hedgehogs that had been rescued but were now being ready to be released back into the wild. So we said yes we would, and that's how we got really interested in hedgehogs and started feeding them more and hopefully allowing them to survive.
How have you made your garden hedgehog friendly?
Well, one of the first things that makes this garden hedgehog friendly is that we haven't got a dog. Now, although a dog might not eat a hedgehog, it would probably worry it quite a lot. So when our garden was inspected for being a good place for hedgehogs to live, that was one thing that the hedgehog lady liked, that there weren't dogs here. Also, I don't use slug pellets or insecticides, which means that the hedgehog wouldn't be in danger of eating something poisonous that was lying around in the garden. And also, because I don't use insecticides, it means there's lots of insects in the garden that for the hedgehog to eat and that are safe for the hedgehog to eat. Also, I've made some log piles for the garden, which hedgehogs like to live in. They like to look for insects and worms and wood lice in them, and they feel very safe and secure in a log pile.
Can you tell us more about the hedgehogs that have been released into your garden?
Well, when the hedgehog lady released the hedgehogs into the garden, there were a pair. There was a fully grown male and a fully grown female, and the hope is that they will breed and have young hedgehogs at some point, which would be great. There was certain things we had to be aware of when we had these hedgehogs. We had to be aware that we were helping to look after them. So we had to provide a safe place for them to live. We had to provide some shelter for them for when they wanted to sleep and be safe. And we had to agree to feed them regularly, because although there's lots of things, natural things for them to eat in this garden, because there were quite a few hedgehogs now living here, we had to be sure that there was enough to eat.
Can you show us your hedgehog houses, please?
When we took the rescue hedgehogs in, we had to agree to certain promises to look after the hedgehogs. One was to give them a safe garden to live in, one was to feed them regularly, and we've already explained that, and one was to provide some shelter for them. And we'd already got the log piles, but the hedgehog lady advised we also made some hedgehog houses, and this is what we did. They're made from bricks, sitting on some wood and a little bit of rubber to try and keep the wet out of the ground. They've got a roof on them to help keep the rain out, and they're full of hay and newspaper.
Did you make any changes to your garden for the food for the hedgehog?
Yes, we did. We had to make quite a few adaptations as we went along. We were on a very steep learning curve, as the phrase goes. When we first fed the hedgehogs, we just used to put their food in their dish, which is this. We just used to plonk it right down on the floor like that. And the hedgehog used to come along, he used to flick the lid off with his nose and tuck in and all as well. But then we realised we got so many cats in this garden, we thought, I think they're probably helping themselves too. And then we borrowed Johnny's camera, and we realised, yes, the cats were eating rather a lot of the food. So we had to think of ways of feeding the hedgehogs but keeping the cats off the food. So we built a little brick house, and we put the food inside, and we left gaps for the hedgehog, and we put this on top, which is my bird feeding cage, and we thought that would stop the cats getting to the food, but it would mean the hedgehogs could easily get to it. But on the film it showed that most cats couldn't work out how to get inside it, but one cat could, and she wriggled down on the floor and put her body right against the paving slab, and her neck, she craned her neck up like that and into the food bowl, and we were really furious that she'd managed to do that. She was far too clever. So the next time we filled in all the gaps, but we just left one gap for the hedgehog, and we put a brick here like this, and that meant that the cat couldn't bend its neck round a corner, it couldn't possibly do that. It just meant the hedgehog had to be really clever. He had to go in, he had to turn left, turn right, and then right again to get to the food, but he did it really easily.
Talking to you today.
Well, you're most welcome, and it's been great having you here and sharing my enthusiasm for hedgehogs.
The experience was really interesting, but just remind us, how can people at home help by making their gardens more hedgehog friendly? To make your garden more hedgehog friendly, you need to make sure you check your garden before you cut it, and be careful turning the compost with the fork, as hedgehogs like to nest in there. Also have a ramp leading up to your garden pond so that they can easily exit. You can also provide log piles for them to hide under, and obviously, like it says in the video, you can feed them.
We also found out that hedgehogs are lactose intolerant, so you shouldn't give them milk or dairy, as some people do. But if you can't give them dairy, what should you give them?
You can feed them tinned cat or dog food, or buy some specialist hedgehog food from Wildlife Food Supplies.
Here's a fascinating fact about hedgehogs. When a baby hedgehog is born, a hoggler, it's born with a protective sac over its spikes as not to harm its mother. But as it gets older, the spikes start to pierce out of the sac and continue to grow. From a nocturnal mammal to a mammal that can be seen in most gardens, a mammal that some people say is quite annoying, the grey squirrel.
We've been on the internet looking at squirrel-proof bird feeders, and my favourite ones have been this one.
Because here the squirrel can't come round and jump onto there, so it has to be 4 feet high,
off the ground and then 8 feet away from any trees, and then the birds can just go on there and eat the food. And then on this one, the squirrels goes on it and then it rolls off it, and then all the birds have to do is go through the hole and then eat the food.
And I like this one because it's kind of the same, so you could just use a tray and then you have the mesh and they can just put their beaks through and eat it, but the squirrels can't fit.
So we've got here is our design, and so this bit is a plastic bowl like here, and so this bit is a close-up of here, and this bit is 2 metal hooks that are looped over each other so that it can like latch on top, and then you put the bird food in there. And then so these bits are little holes of meshing. So this is a close-up here with a wooden peg attached to this bit, and then the bowls. So then if the squirrel jumps on here, it will just fall off and it can't climb up there, because then it will have to. So what we've got here is a drain pipe, and we've got a long wooden stick that we're going to cut into these. For the holes here, we're going to stick these into the holes, and we're going to have this plastic bowl and we're going to put it on the top, and the birds will fly in through here, stand on these, and there'll be a hole here for the bird seed's going to go through, and so when the squirrels try and come on, they'll just slide off it.
We're going to be putting some leaves inside the bowl to make it seem like it's more realistic, so the squirrels don't just think that it's a bowl.
Our design is made to spin, so the log will spin round. So we've hollowed out the log in the middle and put the stick through it with the eyelets on the end. And then we've hollowed out some big holes in it to put the food in. And then we've got some fishing wire, which we are going to attach to the eyelets, which we will use to attach to these poles, which will go in the ground.
Hopefully when the squirrel lands on the log, it will spin like that.
The food that we will use is a lardy, fatty mixture which we will just spread into the inside of the holes.
This is the main bit of the design. So it's got a spring, so when a light bird jumps on it, it won't pull this down. But when a squirrel jumps on it, it'll pull it down, making that the hole won't be in line with the other hole. So that means if a bird lands on it, it'll be easy to eat from it. This bowl is designed so the squirrels cannot jump off the tree and land on it this way. We will grease the pole, and we have just started adding paper leaves onto our design. This is the chain that we're going to attach to the top of this so we can hang it up onto the tree.
It was hard to think of some original ideas, but this one is quite creative. It's a tall white plastic pole with metal drilled through it and with copper pipes resting on the pole. So hopefully when the squirrel tries to climb on it, it should spin off.
What was the most effective design?
It was this one. The squirrels found it really difficult to get on because when they jumped on it, they just fell off. But the birds, it was really popular with the birds. If you want to make a squirrel-proof bird feeder at home, it's really easy. There are lots of designs on the internet, but it's much more fun if you make up your own. We found out that it needs to be 8 feet away from any trees and 4 feet up from the ground, and the squirrels can't chew through the material.
Another fact that helps us use our squirrel-proof bird feeders is that squirrels find it really hard to climb up metal poles, especially if the poles are greased. And if you sprinkle a bird feeder with chili, because squirrels don't like it, they hopefully won't come near your bird feeder.
Did you know that squirrels can jump 10 times their body length and turn their ankles 180 degrees to face the other direction when climbing?
Whilst the experiment was to try and make a squirrel-proof bird feeder, we've also had
had the opportunity to encourage people to invite all sorts of different forms of wildlife into their gardens, because the winter months could be very hard for most animals. And if you do like watching or feeding squirrels, just make sure you put a number of stations out so not just squirrels can feed on them.
I've disappointed you. I haven't been very appreciative of your training. I've been arrogant, and I apologize. I've just been so frustrated.
One place that's just done this is the National Trust property, the Weir Gardens in Hereford, and we've been lucky enough to be chosen to enhance their newly erected bird hide.
Yes, we spoke to Chris Strong from the Weir Gardens to see if he would like a bird identification sheet in the new bird hide, and we are glad to say that he jumped at the opportunity. However, it was a huge task. There was no way we could draw every single bird, as we would run out of time, so we contacted the Weir Gardens and asked them to draw up a list of birds we would expect to find there.
The list that came back was 40 birds long, so we set about sketching 2 birds each. It was quite hard trying to capture all the details of all the different birds, but this is what we came up with.
So here are the draft bird identification, well, one of the draft bird identification sheets which we sent off to the print company to have turned into weatherproof bird posters. We then erected them at the bird hide in the Weir Gardens.
Today we are at the Weir Gardens with Chris.
And with our bird identification sheets to hang up in the bird hide, and we made the bird identification sheets at school.
Thank you to the Witch Primary School for producing these identification boards that we'll hang in our bird hide. This will be a great adaptation to the bird hide, which is new here at the Weir Garden. It does mean that our visitors will enjoy and be able to understand the more popular birds that can be seen on the wider estate. So these are our bird feeders that we use here at the Weir Garden. They are specific to stopping our squirrels from eating the bird feeds. As you can see, we've filled them up, mixture of both peanuts and bird mix. Just like that. So squirrel lands on.
When it runs out,
It just runs out. So it automatically keeps feeding through. So pop the case on. Very expensive.
You'll have to send them.
And whilst we were there, we got to see evidence of a mammal that many people don't get the chance to see.
Hello, welcome to the National Trust property, the Weir Gardens. Today we're in Herefordshire and are going to be looking at river otters. Here in Hereford, river otters are found alongside the River Wye. But today we're going to be looking at the boathouse, another place where otters frequently visit.
Here on the riverbank, we hope to see some evidence of otters. The evidence we hope to see is otter sprain, in other words, it's poo.
If you have ever smelled otter sprain, you can recognise its distinctive smell due to its diet, which mainly consists of fish, although they also eat frogs, small birds, small rodents and eggs, but in the summer they prefer to eat eels. Their diet may vary over the seasons depending on what food is available, but the sprain smells exactly like sardines. It's quite a unique smell. We're just outside the boathouse where we're going to be looking at evidence of otters. This may be footprints in the mud or otter print. Otters are found all over the UK, but not many people are lucky enough to see them. Most otters live in dens, which are dug underground and have many chambers to them. They keep their young in underground burrows, which is called a holt.
We think the otter visits the boathouse regularly, as it feels safe, and rests and eats in here. Now to search out the evidence.
Welcome to our boathouse. We're now going to go inside and have a look to see if we can find any signs of otters.
It's pretty dark in here, but we have managed to find some evidence of otters visiting the boathouse.
We found some perfect otter prints. We also found some otter poo. It does have a strong smell to it. It smells a bit like watery fish. How many otters live at the Weir Gardens?
So from both the evidence that we can see in the mud and from footage that we've got, various pieces of footage, we think there are 3 otters that reside here. So we have a male and a female otter and what seems to be a baby otter.
Wow, you're so lucky to have all that footage and to smell the sprint, although it's quite an unusual thing to do.
So what would be the best month to see a river otter in the River Wye?
Normally the summer months, so June, July and August.
Otters are going through a lot of change depending on their food, aren't they?
Yes, they have been accused of devastating fish stocks, stealing fish from ponds, and we've even seen some footage of them stealing ornamental fish from a pond in Malvern Wells. The footage that you saw at the end, I took. It was an early morning because otters prefer to come out really early in the morning or very late in the evening.
Do otters hibernate?
No, they don't. They keep active throughout the whole year, so they're continually hunting for food to survive. And like we said, it can be hard to survive the long winter months.
Well, we started with some of the smallest and rarest mammals and finished with elusive river otters.
Wow, you were so lucky to have all that footage. I never knew there were that many mammals living on the Malvern Hills. Here is another amazing fact. Out of the 17 species of bats that live in the UK, 14 of them live in, on and around the Malvern Hills, making it an even more special place that we really must take care of.
I really enjoyed the film about the badgers. I hope we see them again in the spring with their cubs.
I feel privileged to have seen a live hazel dormouse. On Country Farm recently, a similar study was conducted. Dormice are one of Britain's rarest mammals, and the work Dr. Johnny Burks is doing is vital.
Yes, we have got to remember that even though we often can't see them, we still have to protect their habitat. And as Johnny Burke says, we must look after the mammals we can't even see.
Speaking of habitat, I've found a lot of gardens that are more wildlife friendly
Teresa Pedota has shown us that we can all give wildlife a helping hand.
Otters are an animal that have seen their numbers increase in the recent years, so hopefully more of us will see them in the future. Talking of exciting projects, we've also heard that in 2019, scientists may be releasing 60 pine martens into the Forest of Dean. These animals at present can mainly be found in Scotland, but we are hopeful that we will be seeing them soon. We obtained footage of how smart a pine marten could be and how it can open wheelie bin lids whilst it actually sits on top of it. I wonder if more of us will be needing bin straps in the near future.
Maybe. Well, we have to say thank you to all the people who helped us in the making of this programme and who made us more aware of the wildlife and plants all around us.
We would like to thank Peter Garner, Johnny Burks, Charlie Long, Teresa Pedota, Chris Strong, also Simon and Andy from Red Box TV who made this whole live show possible.
One of the reasons we wanted to make this programme was to encourage more young children like us to become more aware of the natural world around them and how they can save it for future generations.
While making this show, we have found an amazing book which was published last year. The book is called The Lost Woods and was written by Robert McFarlane and illustrated by Jackie Myers.
The book was made in response to the fact that many nature words such as rambling acorn have been taken out of the Junior Oxford Dictionary to be replaced by technology words. We think that it is horrendous that these words have been taken out.
Yes, it's a really beautiful book, so if you do get the chance to have a look at it, it's well worth it.
Thank you for watching
Autumn Watch!
Oh my word! You gotta go. Well done. Oh my God, that was amazing.
It was stressful. Wait, but we've got to 5 Yeah, mine's not even there.
Sorry? Secret Santa. Mind the wires from this side.
Mine's not there. To bring theirs in, some people's Secret Santas haven't come. I don't have a Secret Santa. I don't know.
Oh my word, that was brilliant.
Oh, listen. 36 concurrent viewers, 59 players. 36 concurrent or 59 players. So you've had 59 people over the course of the whole video. At any one time, the most was 36. So
fantastic.
That's quite good, though.
There's a test one, so don't worry.
Is it still going, isn't it?